Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to the Franchising 360 show. I'm Tim Parmeter alongside Danielle Wright.
Hello.
Danielle and I are going to, on this show, always give you a 360-degree view of what the heck is going on in this franchising industry, and excited for our guest tonight.
I know, we're always excited, but we're excited more because there's a guest.
We're always excited when there's a guest, as is, I'm sure, everyone else. It's much less of our shtick and more,
someone else's
information. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper into commercial real estate tonight.
I know, my favorite thing.
One of your things and part of your background, and in an area of franchising, I'm not as I feel like that's one of the
Wait a
things I don't
second,
know
something
as much
you
about.
don't know?
Unless I get carried away.
Wow.
There's a long list of things like that. But,
I doubt it.
Not as much, and I think we're going to talk about some things tonight that are going to go, oh, I didn't know that was even a thing. So I'm looking forward to our guest.
I love a good real estate conversation. We could sit here for hours.
And speaking of things that we did not know, it is also
Aw.
Friday's Franchise Fun Facts with
Me.
Danielle.
With me. Always with me.
What you got?
Okay, ready? So in the essence of real estate in our conversation, I've done well to, we're tying things together. Do you know how many Subway locations there are?
Yes.
Go ahead.
22,917.
Try again. See, I didn't tell you no. I said try again.
Higher or lower?
No, there's no.
146,007. What do you got?
44,800 in more than 100 countries.
Whoa.
Wait for it. Here's the fun fact. That's more than McDonald's, Starbucks, and Pizza Hut combined.
No kidding.
Yes.
Wow.
Look at that fun fact, everybody. He is amazed.
And I'm trying to think of I wonder how many Subways I have eaten at.
A lot.
And
they're in lots of places that other things are not.
And how many macadamia cookies I've had from Subway.
I don't want to know.
Well,
I'm sure your doctor wouldn't be that happy about that either.
Of all of those things in the little bitty town that I reside half of my life in Arizona, I'm trying to say that as nicely as possible, there are 3 of those. Right,
right. That's what I'm saying.
In
they're
the small
everywhere.
Towns, one's in a gas station, one's in a Walmart, one's like a regular Subway.
Well, and it's when you compare it to Starbucks, there's one on 2 on the same street corner in New York, but they're not everywhere. Did you see that?
In 100 countries.
Yes.
Wow, that is a lot.
I'm not naming the countries though.
So no,
that's not the fun fact.
The
fun fact is that there are more than McDonald's, Starbucks, and Pizza Hut combined.
So and real estate, all of those Subway locations have some sort of real estate.
See, look.
And we are going to chat with.
Do I get my gold star today, boss?
You do. Good job. So coming up after this break, we have a commercial real estate expert that's going to come on and share some things that you probably didn't know that you needed to know when it comes to commercial real estate as a franchise owner. So that is next here on the Franchising 360 show. And we are back on the Franchising 360 show. Tim Parmeter sitting very close to Danielle Wright today because we have a guest with us. And joining us is Carly Wilmes. Carly is the managing partner for Reimagine CRE. First of all, welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
What the heck is CRE?
CRE is commercial real estate.
Oh, did you know that?
I did.
Oh, okay. Well,
but I like it when someone can tell you something you don't know.
I know, which is not what happens often, actually. So, Carly, thanks so much for joining us. There's a big, huge component of not every franchise has retail space, but a whole bunch of them do, and it's a kind of a scary thing for people a little bit when they're looking at this. So thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here and excited to tell you guys how we help franchisees and franchisors with securing real estate.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this 13 years now.
Excellent. Okay, so you know nothing about franchising or real estate after 13 years.
I know nothing. No, I know a lot.
Okay.
I don't know that we can stump her.
No, but we're gonna try. So we talked before you coming on the show a little bit. One of the things you talked about from a real estate standpoint that I thought was unique is kind of your role in promoting and almost protecting that franchise owner. Walk us through kind of what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So A big piece of what I do is educating the franchisees on how to present themselves to the landlords when they're interested in leasing a space. A big misconception when I start working with first-time franchisees is that a lot of landlords are desperate for tenants, right? The space has been sitting vacant for 3 months, so they must be really needing a tenant. So it's actually not the case. A lot of landlords are very picky about who they let lease their retail spaces, or even flex spaces or medical spaces, and so you really want to put your best foot forward. You want to come off professional. You want to have all your finances in order, how you're planning on funding the business, your business background, if you've owned a business in that industry before. All of that's really important. You get one shot at making a good impression to the landlord. So we kind of help present them so they come off as attractive as possible.
It's interesting when you think about the landlord piece, because you think buying a house, I'm buying the house from you, you're the owner, you need to sell it, you need money. The landlord is probably an employee, right? And so a little less. You've been in commercial real estate a long time as well. So I really appreciated you talk about that, and then kind of how that plays into even the franchise system sometimes as well, right?
Yep. So these landlords, they're not, with residential, like you said, if a house has been on the market a long time, that is a bad sign, right? And those homeowners probably are motivated to drop the price to get someone to purchase their home so they can use that money and then buy their next home and move. In commercial, spaces can sit vacant for years, but it doesn't really affect most landlords, with as much impact, because they have, they may have 40 other shopping centers with 50,000 square foot Whole Foods and Erewhon paying rent. So the 2,000 square foot vacancy they have in one is not, causing them to lose sleep overnight. So they're gonna be selective as to who they pick.
Nice.
Oh, I know you're looking at me for a question, aren't you?
Yeah, because I'll just keep going.
Oh, then keep going. She's here for a little bit. I can put my questions over here.
You're waiting for the hard ones, aren't you? Okay.
The gotchas.
What are some of the things that maybe somebody's like coming in and they're like, oh no, I know a little bit about commercial real estate, or they think they can do this on their own.
I have a friend that's been a realtor. They're going to help me find it. Yep, heard that one too.
Right. So talk about some of the things that maybe people have no idea even what they're getting themselves into, and then how you and your team at Reimagine can help.
Yeah. So funny story. The tables were turned, and I tried buying my own residential home for a little bit, and found out very quickly I cannot do it, and I ended up hiring a residential broker. So same thing happens in commercial. We have every now and then a residential franchisee who's a residential broker, and it's just completely different in almost every way. So you really want to, of course, look at what the property is currently quoting. You want to be strategic when you're submitting offers. So I always like to have conversations with the leasing agent who represents the landlord to kind of poke around for deal terms. And then you don't want to just go in with the most, aggressive terms you can, because a lot of landlords will opt to just not respond. And it's very difficult to kind of get back from that.
Don't you know who I am? I'm going to be a great tenant. You have to just accept my insulting offer.
Right. So that's something we have to educate a lot of the franchisees on, and you want to really educate the landlord too on what business you're planning on opening in their commercial space, and then that can help when you're asking for a certain TI allowance or a certain amount of free rent or a construction period.
I know you want to do it. Go ahead. You were like TI. What's TI? I don't understand what that is. Maybe you're asking the wrong person on the wrapper side of it. I was going to go down the path of how often do you have landlords not wanting to work with franchisees? Because here recently I've gotten a bit of a pushback from being on the franchisor side that, hey, this brand is fairly new, this, that, and the other. So landlords really have a lot more control than I think a lot of us. But are you seeing a lot of that in the market right now, or
yes,
are they? Okay.
It's a landlord's market, especially in retail space. So, office was hit hardest after COVID, and that's kind of, I think, what sometimes people have in their mind when they're thinking, oh, commercial real estate is hurting, but retail is in an all-time demand. Vacancy rates are extremely low. And landlords often, I see them if they've been burned recently with a certain franchise in their shopping center that went out of business. Perhaps they bit off more than they can chew. They are coming to the landlord just only after a few months trying to get, rent relief. Yeah. That's not what landlords are looking for. And so if that has happened anytime recently to a landlord, those are typically the situations when I talk to the leasing agent and I go, is it a franchise? And they say yes. And they say the landlord, yeah, the landlord is not, that's not exactly what they're looking for. They're looking for corporately guaranteed leases. And then it's just a little bit more of an uphill battle. There's certain things we can do to, again, show the landlord that we are a good franchisee. We're prepared. We're educated. We know what we're doing. These are our finances. We have everything in order. Here's our pre-approval from our SBA lender. All of that really helps to provide comfort to the landlord that we're going to be able to follow through with, what we agree to in the lease document.
Like actually paying them.
Actually paying rent and opening for business.
And for a period of time. Like, they're not just, right? They're not just banking on you opening and paying me the first year. Like, you're signing.
Not a month-to-month lease.
Like, typical lease terms, right? Like, 5 years, 10 years. Like,
Correct.
They want to know. And with increases, so
Absolutely.
They want to know that you're going to commit to it. That's where your TI question comes into play.
Which is what?
TI is Tenant Improvement Allowance. So it's money that the landlord reimburses you, typically after you open for business, to help offset your construction costs. So it comes in handy, especially if you're going into a new construction space that doesn't have HVAC or an electrical panel or any of that good stuff. It's going to be pretty pricey to build out. And so the landlord offers a TI typically, which is one of the big things we negotiate for our clients.
So there's also this thing called triple net.
Yes.
Look at you using terms.
I don't know what it means to this day. Tenant improvements, I knew. What is triple net?
Triple net is operating expenses, also known as triple net. In some markets, they just call it CAM, but it is the operating expenses for the building as a whole. So it consists of three things: the property insurance, property taxes, and common area maintenance. And it is on top of the base rent. Right. The base rent is what's negotiable. The triple nets are not negotiable. It's a direct pass-through.
Right. And so one of the many things that people trying to do this on their own would probably not have any idea what they're doing. So,
right. Yeah.
So you mentioned kind of like how that's different in some markets and some areas. I want to come back to talk a little bit more about how you're going to help with market research. And like, Carly, how do you know my market? So we're going to dive into that more when we come back on the Franchising 360 show. We are back on the Franchising 360 show. Tim Parmeter alongside Danielle Wright and our guest, Carly Wilmes. Carly with Reimagine CRE, which I learned earlier is commercial real estate. So talk about, we've got a few things we want to kind of hit up here is, you talk about your relationship with franchisors and how that plays into this whole process.
Yeah, great question. So we partner with franchisors and we get to know the brand intimately. We get to know how it works. We get to know which locations are succeeding and why, which locations aren't doing as well and why. And we basically identify all of the green flags and red flags that franchisees need to look for when it comes to real estate. And that way we know where to guide them, which sites to hone in on. We know exactly what the franchisor is doing. If there's any changes in the franchise brand, like maybe they're going from Class A retail space to Class B, then we can instantly implement that with all the franchisees. If they're starting to make their square footage smaller, they have a more efficient layout, we are automatically implementing that out with all the franchisees that we're working with. So we know exactly what to look for, which helps, because a lot of our clients will work with local brokers and they'll show them stuff that isn't on brand, right. And that's just making the process longer.
It goes back to following the dang process. If we're really on, if a franchise says,
but on the flip side, everybody's really anxious. Like anybody that's looking at, in my experience, that's looking at retail, we want to see the vision of where we want to put it, right? And so we're driving down the street and, oh my goodness, I'd love to have it in this plaza, but there's so much more behind it than just, hey, I'd love it to have it here. Like, how much prep work can they do on the front end, even though following the plan is your thing, but they haven't necessarily bought the franchise from, I'm signed, I'm funded, all of those pieces. What can people start doing in the beginning to kind of, I mean, I know what I tell them, but what do you guys tell franchisees that are pre-franchisee level?
Yeah, I think looking at all the documentation from the franchisor about the real estate requirements, and then looking in your market, you can look on LoopNet to get a general idea of what rental rates are and what vacancies are. Not all that information is correct, but it will at least give you an idea of, you know, what the pricing is and what the availability is. But you really I don't recommend starting to reach out to any landlords or engage with any leasing agents until you've actually joined the brand and you are ideally working with us or another
Right.
qualified real estate broker. Because again, from the first point of contact with the landlord's team, they are judging you and they are vetting you. And if
It's like dating. I don't want to show up to the bar looking like not good.
Exactly. And typically if you don't have a broker representing you on your behalf, that's kind of a red flag to landlords that you're not serious or you're just window shopping. So I would reserve making actual contact with any landlords and definitely not start, you know, negotiating or anything like that until you've hired a broker to represent you.
Now, you guys are partnered with franchisors. Do you do independent work outside of that? Say a franchisor hasn't said, hey, I really want to have an exclusive partner. So I'm Joe Schmo. I'm looking at this franchise. Can just a random person working with a random brand reach out to you guys and work with you in that capacity?
They can. However, our preference, again, is to know the franchise brand inside and out. That's how we're able to really show the franchisees the best real estate options. We look at the complementary co-tenants. We look at the demographics. We look at, you know, the actual building itself. Does it have a post-tension slab? Does it have the HVAC and power we need? And we need to know all that information from the franchisor, which is why we partner with franchise brands to get to know the brands inside and out before working with the franchisees.
Awesome.
How do you know, how often does this happen? So yes, you know commercial real estate, but you're in Dallas, I live somewhere else. How could you possibly know my market?
Yeah, great question. So we do consult with local brokers, but on top of that, we work in all of these markets over and over and over again. So in franchising, as you guys may know, there's, you know, kind of certain markets where everyone tends to open their businesses.
Yes. Right.
And so, you know, I'm working in St. Pete right now, and I'm working with 6 different brands right now in St. Pete, right? From my desk in Dallas. So we use that knowledge. We also know, you know, from the complementary co-tenants that a lot of our retailers like to be by, the demographics, all of that goes into play when we're advising our franchisees on which spaces to focus on.
Back to knowing the brand,
Yeah.
right? As with that as well. And so is it only the kind of the Class A real estate, the shiny object things, or are there other things from a real estate standpoint you guys do?
Many other things. So when it comes to real estate, I always tell people, do not fall in love. Rule number 1, do not fall in love with a fancy shopping center. So I like to...
Wait, hold on. Our very first guest, who you know on this show, that's been in franchising forever, busted that out. She's like, oh, I made a mistake and I fell in love with the real estate. So,
and she is my client. And I specifically told her not to do that.
Not to do it.
Thankfully, it all worked out. But the reason you don't want to fall in love with spaces is because typically, and of course it depends on the brand and the business you're opening, but typically the fanciest, nicest shopping center is going to be the worst for your wallet. And I like to educate franchisees that, you know, there's also those shopping centers right down the street from the big fancy Whole Foods anchored shopping center that capture the same audience, that's a lot less expensive and is going to set you up for success. So, you know, it's important to not just look at the pretty stuff. And part of the reason why we named our company Reimagine is because a lot of these spaces you have to reimagine. And, you know, if you'd seen the spaces before many of our clients turn them into what they are today, you'd be shocked. But it's really about the build out. It's really about the location, and it may not always look pretty when you tour for the first time, but after we negotiate and after the landlord does some work, it can really turn into something great.
And see, and I love the Reimagine stuff because it's already has notability. Like, people know where you are. I can get you there. The new stuff, to your point, it's new today. It's going to be old tomorrow. It's fine. Something else is going to develop in and around that. But that's kind of that hey, don't kind of figure out where you would go, find out where people would be. And it may not be the best space, but it's the best space for you probably long term. I like the financial aspect of it. Like,
yeah, and because that's one of the things you're doing from a protection standpoint too, is to, yes, there's the amount of money you need to become a franchise owner, but they've got to be making sure they're in a great shape financially to be able to just get the lease, correct?
That's correct, yeah. So landlords, they're going to look at the finances as soon as you submit an LOI, and they want to see that there's cushion. They want to see what happens if something pops up during construction that you weren't planning for, or what happens if
that
it
never
takes.
happens, though, right? Everything goes
Never
perfectly
ever
fine?
happens.
Okay.
And they've never done it as a landlord, please.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, right. But they want to also, they want to make sure that you have the ability to pay rent if it takes your business a little bit longer to get going than you initially planned, and
Or a pandemic or something happens,
Right.
right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
And then real quick, you're also helping, maybe somebody needs more like kind of office-related retail space. Is that something you guys can help them with too?
Yes. So we help many different franchise brands, anything from traditional retail space to flex space, which is kind of a hybrid between office and retail, kind of industrial parky. We also do medical. We also do office, and I feel like I'm missing one. Medical, office, retail, industrial. Those are our main bread and butter.
There we go. And the moral of the story is, if you are about to become, or you are a franchise owner and you need retail space, real quick, should they do it on their own, or should they use a professional?
They should definitely use a professional.
Well, and real quickly, it's kind of like your services, right? Like your services are free because you get paid somewhere else.
Right.
Your services are a service provided to the franchise owner that they don't have to pay for. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
So similar to residential, when you are the buyer of a home, it's the landlord or the seller of a home that pays the commission. That's then split between the landlord's agent and the tenant's agent. So
See, so why not use someone?
Right.
They're
And
basically free.
Right. And again, especially for somebody like Reimagine that knows the franchisor is all part of that plan. So the moral of the story is, boys and girls, follow the plan and use a commercial real estate person. And hopefully it's Reimagine and Carly Wilmes. Carly, thanks for joining us tonight.
thank you so much.
All right. We will be right back after this on the Franchising 360 Show.
Thanks again for watching the Franchising 360 Show, brought to you by FranCoach. Danielle and I hope these episodes continue to educate you on the franchise industry. In between our episodes, if you would like to learn more about franchising and the ways in which FranCoach can help, there are a few places you should check out. First, be sure to listen to the award-winning Franchising 101 podcast. You can find this on Spotify or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Next, check out the FranCoach YouTube channel, FranCoach for You. You can catch past episodes of the Franchising 360 Show, plus tons of other content. If you like to read, we encourage you to check out the book, Becoming a Franchise Owner. And finally, when you are ready to take that first personalized step and explore franchise industry further, please reach out to our amazing team at FranCoach. There is never any fee for our service, so let us help you create your better tomorrow. Until next week, for Danielle Wright, I'm Tim Parmeter. Thanks for tuning in to the Franchising 360 Show.